Hey everybody, and welcome back. I'm Rick Fussell and this is the Ingrain Workshop. Today I've been commissioned by my youngest client Chip, my 4-year-old grandson Liam. Apparently he got a lot of Legos over the Christmas holidays and his birthday, which was in January, so he's requested that Pawpaw build him a Lego table. That's coming up next here at the Ingrain Workshop. So let's start here at the miter saw and break down our 2x4s for the table. I'll set my miter stop to 22¼ inches and cut the 4 long pieces of the leg. Now, did I mention that this was grandson approved? For once, I didn't need the supervisor's approval. Once those are done, I'll readjust the stop to 18¾ inches and cut the 4 short leg pieces. By cutting both the long and the short piece for each leg, we're essentially creating a half lap joint at the top of the legs, which will give us a nice solid connection for the table frame. With the legs finished, I'll set the stop to 13 inches and cut the 2 side aprons. Then I'll move the stop out to 51 inches and cut the front and back aprons. And that wraps up all the 2x4 cuts for the table. So I don't want to bore everybody by showing all the 2x4 cuts for the bench because the bench uses the same components as the table, just scaled down. Here's a quick recap of all the bench parts along with their exact measurements. If you want, you can pause the video here and grab a screenshot. To give you a better idea of how everything goes together, I went ahead and did a temporary dry fit of both the table and the bench. Let's start assembling the table, beginning with the legs. I'll glue a long and short leg piece together, creating that half lap joint at the top of each leg. Before the glue is set, I'll pre-drill and countersink 6 2½ inch GRK screws. Then repeat that process for all 4 legs for the table and the bench. With the legs assembled, I'll head over to the router table and cut a 1/4 inch roundover on all 4 outside corners of each leg. Next, I'll move to the drill press and drill out some plugs, then cut them free at the bandsaw. Those get glued in to cover the screws in the legs for a cleaner look. Back at the router table, I'll cut the same 1/4 inch roundover on the apron pieces, but only on the bottom edges, leaving the top square. At my pocket hole workstation, I'll drill out pocket holes in both the short aprons for the bench and the table. Finally, with a chamfer bit in the router table, I'll cut a 1/4 inch chamfer on the bottoms of all the legs, both the table and the bench. Now it's time to assemble both the bench and the table, starting with the bench. I'll take 1 side apron and 2 legs, then glue and clamp the apron into 1/2 of the half lap joint. Using 2½ inch pocket hole screws, I'll drive 2 screws into each leg. Then I'll repeat that process for the other side of the bench and do the exact same thing for the table. Because the bench is smaller, I had to use a right angle drill attachment to get the screws in place. If I didn't mention it earlier, I drilled 4 pocket hole screws in each side apron. And on the long aprons, I drilled pocket holes every 12 inches. These will be used later to fasten the tops to both the bench and the table. To install the long aprons, I used glue along with 2.5 inch GRK screws, driving them into the other half of the half lap joints. With both the table and the bench bases assembled, it's time to cut the tops. I'm using 3/4 inch MDF. Over at the table saw, I'll rip the tabletop to 20 inches. Then over at the miter saw, I'll cross cut it to 58 inches. That gives the table a 2-inch overhang all the way around. Then it's back to the table saw to rip the bench top to 10 inches. And then back over to the miter saw to cross cut it to 42 inches. The bench top will sit flush with no overhang. Next, I'll rip some 1x2 pine down to 3/8 of an inch thick. This will be used for the edge banding around both the table and bench tops. On the table, the edge banding will extend 3/4 of an inch above the surface to help keep the Lego pieces from falling off. On the bench, it'll sit flush with the top. Over at the router table, using an 1/8 inch roundover bit, I'll round over both top edges of the table's edge banding. This softens the edges and makes it a lot more comfortable when my grandson and his friends are leaning over the table building Lego creations. Before installing the edge banding, I need to attach the tops to both the table and the bench. Using pocket hole screws, I'll set the tops on my workbench, flip the assemblies upside down, and fasten everything in place. At the miter saw, I'll cut mitered ends on the edge banding. To get a perfect fit, I'll use a piece of scrap with a mitered end to line up one corner, clamp the trim in place, and mark the opposite end before making the second miter cut. I'll repeat this process all the way around both the table and the bench. Finally, I'll use some wood glue and pin nails to secure the edge banding to the MDF. With all the edge banding installed, I can move on to the finish. For this build, I used Minwax Special Walnut Stain, followed by 2 coats of clear lacquer. I didn't stain the MDF. Those tops only received lacquer. As a little added bonus, he requested my brand on the front of both the bench and the table. What can I say? He likes alligators. And there we have it, a Lego table and bench ready to go and ready for some serious fun. Well, that's going to wrap up this video. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending some time with me today in the workshop. If you enjoyed the video, then please hit that like and share button. It really helps out the channel. If you're new to the channel and you like DIY and woodworking projects, then I highly recommend that you smash that subscribe button. It's free and painless, and I'd also ask that you ring that bell icon. That way you can be notified of all our upcoming videos. To all my existing subscribers, I really appreciate all the support that you give this channel. Now I'll leave links in the video description below to any tools and equipment that I might have used on this build, and that's one way you can support the channel. And if you'd like to, you can also buy us a coffee. The link's in the video description below. Again, I'm Rick with Ingrain Workshop. Have a wonderful day and God bless.